In short, my mother died short of 3 years ago. My dad has since met a new woman, we'll call her S, and she and her daughter, 14 female, D from now on, have moved in our family house. This is in my original country, Italy. I don't live there anymore, as I moved to the UK to study as a doctor, and I work in the UK as well. I visit home 2 or 3 times every year, and I spend there all of my 25 days of annual leave. I like it there. We have a rather large house with a pool, and it's next to the beach as well, so it's my perfect spot for holidays. I was not consulted when my dad took the decision of taking S and D in, but okay, he's a grown-up. Moreover, I wasn't asked if I were fine with D taking my room. Last time I visited in Christmas, I had to sleep in the guest room. My room was completely repurposed for my stepsister. My clothes were packed in luggage and in a garage, and my PC was sold. When I asked why, the response was that they were expecting me to have a laptop and to go in a hotel. I endured and stayed in the guest room for the duration of the holidays. Another thing I don't like is how D is treating my room. I have seen her sneaking a boy in. Our windows give to one another, and the guy came in from her window, not from the main door. And I am not comfortable with them potentially having S on what used to be my bed. By the way, when I referred this to my dad and to S, I was called an a-hole by both of them for violating her privacy, but that is another story. I am scheduled to go home again for the first 2 weeks of August, and I have demanded to have my room back, or at least have my stuff arranged properly, the way they found it in another separate room. Important. We have a room that is identical to mine. I couldn't use it as it was unfurnished. Another thing to notice is that my grandparents, mom's side, own the house, not my dad, and they said specifically that they will pass it to me. On the other hand, S says that I am just there because I want to disrupt their family equilibrium, S and D are black, for not allowing them to have my same standard of living. Well, her texts are longer than this. I summarize. Am I the a-hole for asking that they fix my room or ready an equivalent room in the house? Edit. I'm not expecting to have my room back. I was expecting to have the equivalent room furnished for when I am there. Yes, the a-hole. It isn't your room anymore. She lives there permanently. It is her room now. Yes, the a-hole. It isn't your room anymore. You have left home and have your own place. It isn't your house yet, and may never be. Your grandparents could change their minds. It is your dad's family home. What your stepsister does with the room is now none of your business. Sure, you're entitled to your feelings about what's going on in what used to be your bed. Still, none of your business, because it isn't your bed anymore. If you've been called out for violating your stepsister's privacy by your dad and S, then that's exactly what you were doing. You can ask, politely, if another room will be prepared for you to stay in, but you certainly don't get to demand your old room back. To be honest, it speaks volumes that your family expected you to stay in a hotel rather than in the spare bedroom last time you visited. Not the a-hole. Everyone keeps saying that OP is yes the a-hole, but if it were switched and the father was posting about if he was the a-hole for giving his daughter's room to his stepdaughter, everyone would say that he was the a-hole, which is actually what happened here. The father gave away his daughter's room to his stepdaughter without even consulting her. Also, why is everyone saying that just because OP is a doctor, she could stay in a hotel? She already said that she prefers to stay at her grandparents' house, since it doesn't belong to her father. I really feel like the father knew that OP would be coming back to the house during the holidays and still let the stepdaughter take over her room without consulting her. OP is not the a-hole. Her father and the stepmother are. Also, I can't believe OP is now being forced to reschedule her holidays because of her stepmother and stepsister. Be mindful, Italy is OP's home country. I assume she wants to go back regularly to see her other family members or friends. And finally, I can't believe the stepmother said that OP was disrupting her family equilibrium for not allowing them to have her same standard of living, and accused her of being an R. Lady, her family lived there before you, and your dad was her family before you. If anything, the stepmom ruined the family equilibrium. As for the standard of living, OP is not blocking the stepmom from becoming a doctor and earning the same amount. If she wants to get the same standard of living, she could. Also, OP, you have to let your grandparents know that this whole situation has happened. I request that you show any communication from your father, your stepsister, and stepmother to them so that they fully understand the situation and what is going on in their own house. It definitely seems like borderline aggression and false accusations to me. Update. Well, basically the situation is that my dad is currently living with his new girlfriend, S, and her daughter, D, in Italy, while I am in the UK to work. After a long FaceTime call I had with Dad, S, and D, they let me know that I am not really welcome there anymore, and it's time for me to not use that house for summer holidays. Too bad, as I love the place, and too bad as I won't have face-to-face with Dad, but I need to respect his decision. I have spoken to my grandparents, Mom's side, as they own the house, and we decided to let my dad and his new family stay there until they please, under basically same condition. He pays token rent of €1. Grandpa will retire soon from his job, professor of medicine, and I suggested I come visit for the occasion. He suggested to go to Greece instead. He pays the tickets to me and my grandma. I have great admiration towards my grandpa, as he is the one to inspire me to pick med school, so I am thrilled to go, and we booked the tickets. I shared the booking page on Facebook, tagging my grandpa as I know he likes these things. Oh well, bad move, because apparently S saw it, and they tried to reach out to me and tell me that I was again being selfish. I was being selfish before when as I asked to have my room back. I apologize for this. I was selfish when I asked they ship to me the jewelry of my deceased mom. She said to me and to my dad that she wanted me to have them. Now my dad doesn't remember, and D already showed it in school. Seems bad to take it from her. Extra creepy. And now I am being selfish for going to a beautiful place in Greece with just some part of the family. D especially took it badly. She said she would love a vacation away and she would like to come. S and D told me that this would be a great chance for all of us to connect and be a family, and that I could show great maturity by telling my grandpa to also pay the ticket and accommodation for them. They said that money for him isn't a problem. Well, she's right, he could afford such a trip. I made it clear that I don't want any of them to come, as we are now two different families. I don't want Dee to come alone either. She's also a minor, by the way. I told them that they should talk to my granddad. Doubt he will say yes, and they know it. Edit. Update. They have escalated this with my grandfather, called him to complain about me. They fed him lies about me being selfish and are. I haven't said anything to them at all. And I don't deserve a holiday. They do, as compensation for hosting me in Christmas. I offered to send my grandfather the screenshots of the conversation I had with S, but he didn't want them, as he believes me. Emphatic not the a-hole this time. You're not welcome at their house, and they don't want you to visit on holidays, but they want to connect and be a family, with your deceased mother's parents. No, they just want a free international vacation on top of their free housing. So, from what I understand, they don't want you coming to visit them in Italy anymore at a house that your grandparents own, but they want to be included on a trip to Greece with you and your grandparents. Also, your dad's girlfriend's daughter has helped herself to some of your mom's jewelry. First off, this isn't your stepmom or stepsister. If your dad hasn't married yet, then they are just his girlfriend and her daughter. You have no real relation aside from that your dad is dating this girl. Second, they sound selfish, immature, and like a bunch of freeloaders. They want to have their cake and eat it too. They are basically living for free off your granddad and pretending they have some ownership of this house. Your grandpa should have the final say. But then they conveniently want to be included on a free trip to Greece. What a bunch of butthats. At the end of the day, it's your grandpa's call, but not the a-hole for not wanting them to come. You are right. You basically are two separate families based on how they've treated you. They just want to freeload off a trip and claim connection as a family, as an exclusive when they've made it clear they don't want to connect with you. Update 2. I have since moved on. Decided I will settle in London permanently and never look back. My dad contacted me yesterday and we ended up catching up about our lives. After a while, he tells me that Dee has issues adapting to study in Italy and she's performing poorly. I know that the high school she goes to is notoriously one of the hardest we have in the city, so it's normal. Also, I don't see the surprise in this. You can't move a teenager from one country to another and expect her to adapt at light speed. He then said that they were thinking about sending her to London to study for a year. There are programs in Italy that allow you to take a high school year abroad. Then he dropped the bomb. They were planning to send her to live with me. He said that I am a good role model. I made it through med school and now have a good job. Also, he said that with how much I earn, it won't be an issue to care for her, and that I should make myself useful as a big brother, as I contributed nothing to the family all these years. Which is true, but neither did they with me. After some reflections, I told him I won't host her or anything for the followings. 1. She's not my family, she's his family. He chose them, not me. 2. I don't want to care for another human being. I work a ton and have a social life, sometimes. 3. She's lousy. When I was in Italy, I spotted her sneaking a boy in the house for the night. I don't think she even cares about studying. From the limited time I had with her, she was always either at a party or on her phone. At this point, S came into the conversation and accused me of being R and an egoist. I don't feel I can really have a conversation with her. She keeps interrupting me. I also can't really speak with D, so I don't know what she would want. Anyhow, they are buzzing my phone because they need my details, address, payslips, and all, before the end of October, which is the deadline of the abroad study program. Am I the a-hole here? I feel like they can always pay her a college if they want her to study in London. Not the a-hole. Obviously, it's your call, and you're not the a-hole anyway. In particular, I wouldn't send them personal information like my salary. But also, what are they thinking sending a 15-year-old girl to live with a 30-year-old man she barely knows and hasn't spoken to in however long, regardless of her mother's marital status, and who is not home all the time due to work and having their own life? On what planet is that a good idea? No shade to you, OP, but it seems mad. Not the a-hole. Tell them they are causing a disturbance in your personal equilibrium. I would also go no contact. Kind of a complicated background. So, my brother and I share the same biological parents. He's 6 years older than me. When our parents divorced, my brother and dad had this huge fight, and my brother refused to have anything to do with him. The reason for the fight is that our mom has suffered from mental illness since before we were born. My brother and I both inherited this from her, and our dad no longer wanted to deal with our mom's mental health. My brother and I were both pissed about this, but him being a bit older, he had more say. As he pointed out, would there come a day he would no longer want to deal with us? Within a year, our dad was married again. I was 8. My dad's wife had a daughter the same age as me. We got along okay, but I was never anywhere near as close to her as I was my brother. My brother has zero relationship with her, never even seen her that I'm aware. Anyway, my brother turned 30 2 weeks ago, and that same weekend my stepsister was getting married. My brother and brother-in-law already had plans for his birthday, made in advance, and I knew I was joining. Then my sister's wedding invite came, and I saw the date and I RSVP'd no. This caused a stir because a wedding is a huge once-in-a-lifetime event, and she's your sister. I said I had conflicting events happening and I needed to be there too. My dad was pissed, his wife was extra pissed, and said I can't always choose my brother over her. Stepsister was more hurt, but with a little mad thrown in. She said she wanted me to choose her the same way I choose my brother on occasion. They told me they would leave a spot open and hope I would come around. I didn't. I told them I would be going to my brother's birthday. For some reason, this never sunk in, and they flipped out on me after the weekend was over and told me I was such an a-hole and I broke her heart and she deserved the same effort I give my brother. They have come down hard on me, which I get why it was important to them, but I did give them warning, and I'm not super close to any of them. I keep a relationship going because I'm still figuring out how to feel about my dad and trying to see what's best for me. But I accept I might be an a-hole because it meant a lot to her. Because I have always been less invested in a relationship with her than the one with my brother. And even though I have said before that I don't consider her my sister, she considers me hers. And it hurts her, and this hurt her again. So, am I the a-hole here? Not the a-hole. Why did they have to pick the weekend of your brother's 30th birthday for their wedding? If they didn't want conflict, they could have picked a different weekend. It's not as if they didn't know it was his birthday. Not the a-hole. You RSVP'd in what I assume was a timely manner. That's all you're required to do. Something a lot of people don't like to accept is that the level of a relationship between two people is set by the least interested party. It doesn't matter that your stepsister wants more from you. She can't force you to care about her more than you do. It's on her to accept what you're offering. You've done nothing wrong. Not the a-hole. Out of 52 weeks in a year, the wedding falls on your brother's birthday, and your dad didn't say anything? He is your brother, and you talk to him more than your stepsister. Let them be mad at you, but in the end, you are choosing someone that has been there for you. I, 54 female, have been the main breadwinner for my family throughout my marriage. My husband owned and operated a business that was more like a hobby, which did not always cover its own expenses. I could well afford it, and it fulfilled him, so I encouraged and supported it. For the sake of my mother-in-law, my brother-in-law and his wife essentially lied to her, allowing her to believe that my husband was the main breadwinner, which aligned with her traditional family views and gender roles. To keep the peace in the family, and given that we only visited a few times a year, I went along with this lie, even though I was subject to my mother-in-law's criticisms. She could not understand why I needed to go on business trips, or why I could not cancel them for my kids' dance recitals, soccer games, or why I needed to hire a nanny, or why I couldn't always get a hot meal on the dinner table every night, etc. About a year ago, my husband passed away, and after the funeral, my brother-in-law told me, privately, that he was sorry for the comments I'd endured, but believed it was all worth it because my mother-in-law was able to grieve her son as a real man and provider. Mother-in-law later told me that she would take care of me and my kids, now aged 13 and 16, and I later learned from my brother-in-law that this meant my family's share of the inheritance would be larger than that of my brother-in-law. I believe this may have partly stemmed from some guilt for her consistent criticisms of me, but it is definitely consistent with her belief that my family has lost its main breadwinner. In her mind, this money will help my children maintain the lifestyle they had when my husband was alive. Ironically, although we miss him dearly, we are actually now better off financially without my husband's business to support. My brother-in-law now insists that I correct the record with my mother-in-law so that he receives a more equitable share of the inheritance. But I told him to go duck himself. Am I the a-hole? Not the a-hole. Brother-in-law made his mess. Now he can clean it up. Either he could admit to his mom he lied about his late brother and ruin his mother's memory of your husband, or he can keep up the lie and endure a smaller inheritance. Either way, it wasn't your idea, and now it's not your responsibility. Not the a-hole. Your brother-in-law was happy to continue the lie and make mother-in-law happy, and saw no issue with you getting criticized and put down for it. Now that it's not benefiting him, he wants you to be the bad guy again, so that he gets more money. If your mother-in-law feels that the man is the primary breadwinner and wants to give you more for that, let her. Brother-in-law should have spoken up in support of you sooner, or pushed for telling your mother-in-law the truth when your husband was alive, and before he had anything to gain from it. Brother-in-law doesn't care about mother-in-law's beliefs. He cares about the money.